Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. With me today is my good friend, Alex Spears. Alex, what's up?
What's up, Andrew? The in-laws are in town, so I've been pushed further into my house. I am now in the storage room doing my podcast.
It's in a much different location. We have a mega pod today, Al.
Mega pod. Big pod.
We will have Ben Pfeifer on of Twitter. I don't know what else he's on.
Draft analyst, Twitter. Draft
analyst, yeah. And I think the reason we wanted to bring him on is because he has some different opinions. He's not going to come on here and be like, guys, Cade Cunningham 1, Evan Mobley 2, and then, I don't know, Jalen Green or Jalen Suggs. What do you think? You know, he's not going to bring that.
I feel like, well, you know, it's been weeks. This is such a long pre-draft process, and pretty much everyone knows how we feel, especially you and Michele, and even me for some of the guys at the top. But so we wanted to bring on someone who would just be a little bit different, give us some new perspective on some of these guys.
It's going to be great. And then at the tail end of the show, Vrens Blyenberg comes on the pod, which is quite a treat. He is, one, he's a delight. And two, he talks about his experience going to work out for the Thunder and what that draft process was like for him. And you're going to love it. You're absolutely going to love it. So stay tuned for that interview because he's the man. I'll probably clip some of the video too, because we did it on video on Zoom and put that out if I have time. My time is like outrageously limited right now. But
it is so funny that we have a guy who may not even be on the Thunder.
He might not, but
he's already on the Thunder, according to Thunder Twitter.
He is tied to the Thunder through Twitter, which is just such a fascinating thing. And he ties himself to the Thunder on Twitter. He's tweeting out things like, who's the better fan base, the Thunder or the Knicks? And like has people vote on that. So he's already tying himself to the Thunder. Whether or not they draft him, I don't know. And I talked to him about this, about how he profiles as a Thunder player. He's 6'11". He can dribble, he can pass, he can shoot. Like he's very Thunder. And they have 2 picks and where he would be available at 35 and 36. And I think that it's certainly possible that they would draft him. They've already taken a look at him, but he feels very Thundery to me.
Yeah, I'm very excited. You've told me some details about your interview with him. And it sounds like it wasn't just your average athlete interview where it's just boring responses. It sounds like you actually learned a lot about Vrens.
Yeah, there's a couple nuggets in there that I didn't know, that I don't think anybody knew about him and his experience here. So just stay tuned for that. And then Ben Pfeifer will come on here in about 15 minutes. He'll be live with us. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to check us out on YouTube. If you are just listening to the podcast, you can subscribe and get notifications when we go live, and then join us live. It's fun. People get in the comment sections, may even say your name on the pod. Who knows? Alex, there was some like Thunder adjacent news yesterday that could significantly impact the future of the team. And I had 4 or 5 different tweets that I drafted about the Kawhi injury, but I never sent any because I don't think you ever really want injury to be the reason that your team is benefiting. It just feels weird to me. I don't love it. I don't love talking about it. I don't love reveling in it. But the fact is that the Clippers missing Kawhi for the entire season, like he'll miss the whole season. That is very, very significant with regards to the pick that is completely unprotected.
Yeah, it really affects the Thunder's future. And to be honest, like back when all these trades were made, and for any of these trades, like you can talk about the Milwaukee picks that were going to New Orleans or anything like that, you know that the way that those picks are most likely to turn into good picks is someone good on that team gets hurt in a random year, and that team has the random season from hell. Like 2 years ago, we saw it with Golden State. Like obviously they owned their pick at that time, but if someone else had owned their pick, they would have just happened to get lucky because that happened to be the Golden State Warriors year from hell. Everyone gets injured. They end up being a lottery team. I don't know if that's going to happen with the Clippers because we saw that a Clippers team without Kawhi was still able to beat the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, albeit without Mike Conley, and take the Suns pretty far. So we'll see what that team is like, but they're in a really interesting position because obviously Kawhi has the player option. I still think he opts out. We saw it with Kevin Durant. There's going to be teams who would offer Kawhi the full max, even though he had this injury. But they have some other issues beyond that. I mean, are they going to be able to re-sign Reggie Jackson? Because it's not like if Kawhi just leaves, like that is still a scenario. I mean, I don't know if we want to believe Skip Bayless, but he's talked about the fact that
Kevin left after he had his major injury. It's not right. That won't stop anybody from doing it.
And Skip Bayless has talked about, and who knows with Skip Bayless, but I feel like sometimes he's right on Kawhi, which is that Kawhi was upset with the way that the Clippers medical team initially diagnosed it, because it was initially diagnosed as this knee sprain, which, to be fair, if you Google knee sprain, it does say a tear, but we were told that, if they make it to the finals, Kawhi might come back or he'll be reevaluated. And so yesterday's news was really shocking in that respect. So I think we still have to leave open the idea that it's still possible Kawhi could leave. And in that scenario, it's not like they have a ton of money left over because they still need to re-sign guys like if they want to bring back Nicholas Batum or if they want to bring back Reggie Jackson or Patrick Patterson, probably not. So they are in a really weird position. I don't think that it's automatic that if Kawhi misses next year, they are like a top 8 pick or anything like that. I still think they'd be in the mix for like late lottery, like play-in tournament. But yeah, I mean, this is huge news in terms of OKC's future and OKC's present, because we've talked about how a lot of these picks coming up on their own right now don't seem like amazing picks. Most of them project to be mid to late first rounders. Could this be the thing that boosts the value of one of those picks, and maybe they would trade it if they're really trying to move up and it would seem appealing to another team? I think at this point you just hold on to it because, I mean, that could be a lottery ticket. You just don't know now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a world where a Paul George, Marcus Morris, Terrence Mann team is good. Luke Kennard. Like, there's a world where that's a good regular season team.
Good enough.
Yeah, where they are like the 5th seed or something like that. And they're like a feel-good story, and the Thunder get like the 20th pick in the draft.
Right.
That's certainly possible. So that's why it's also hard to like celebrate it, because we don't know. And if Reggie stays and he's anywhere close to what he was in the playoffs, like we're clearly a good team that could beat anybody on any given night. You also, if you want to go the positive Thunder route, I mean, Paul George is 30. I think this will be his age 31 season. He is almost always hurt, at least like once or twice a season. So if he's out, then that's a bad team, like straight up. Straight up bad team. So there is the chance, like you said, for them to be late lottery. And it would be incredible.
If this was 2 years from now, they'd have way more flexibility, because coming up, they still have the expiring contracts of Patrick Beverley and Rondo, which together, those guys are like over $20 million of their cap. If they didn't have those guys, you could see them making a bigger move. But if they're going to make a move this summer, like these reports coming out that they're interested in Lonzo, like how are you getting Lonzo? What could you possibly do? They don't have picks. They're young players, Terrence Mann, who they obviously want to keep. I don't see how they could possibly make a move. So they really are in a tight position. And also, like, well, maybe this is incorrect. I was going to say, what free agent would want to come to the Clippers knowing that Kawhi's might not be there? But again, it is LA. So guys might just want to live in LA.
Yeah, they might. But they're still the Clippers.
They're still the Clippers.
They're still the Clippers. And they won't be a contender next year. That's that would be the thing. It's LA and a contender. I think all those guys will just go to the Lakers that want to be in LA. Like if there's like a guy that's a veteran that was willing to take a pay cut, they'll just go to LA. Yeah. The Lonzo thing is something to watch, certainly, because I don't think New Orleans is going to match just anything that comes their way.
Oh, I don't disagree. And I think there are teams out there where he makes a ton of sense. Like, for instance, the New York Knicks, who have been rumored to be aggressively pursuing Colin Sexton, which I thought was very funny because it came out like they were aggressively pursuing him. And then you saw what the trade offer was. It was like, oh, okay, well, doesn't seem that aggressive. Like it was the proposed deal, which I think it was the Locked On Cavs guy who released it, was like Obi Toppin, Kevin Knox, and their 2 first rounders this year, the 19 and 21.
Yeah.
Which, like, that, I think, like, if you can get Colin Sexton for that, even though I have issues with Colin Sexton, like, yeah, I would probably do that if I were the Knicks. They have a ton of cap space. They're going to have to use that cap space somewhere.
That's pretty aggressive for Sexton. 2 firsts and your lottery pick from last year. Like, that's pretty aggressive.
I don't value Obi Toppin that high at all, especially on that Knicks team. He's never going to play with as long as Julius Randle's there. So that's like a sunk cost to me. And then the 2 firsts, like, we know what the Knicks are trying to do. Like, they do not care about like rebuilding through the draft. So if the alternative to that is, try to chase some veteran that is past his prime, or get a 24-year-old who's a proven scorer in the NBA and has done it efficiently. I know, like, I would not like Colin Sexton for the Thunder, for instance, but if he could go to the Knicks, and then if they have the cap space to also make an offer to Lonzo in that scenario, like Lonzo would be a pairing with Colin Sexton that I might actually like.
Sure. If you're the Knicks, would you rather give up all of that for Sexton, or give up, what do they have, 20... What pick do they have? 22? 21?
19 and 21.
Yeah, 21. Would you rather give up just 21 for Kemba?
For Kemba? What would I do? I mean, it's, I mean, I could see that.
Just 2 years of Kemba. I mean, if Kemba can play, like, electric in the Garden, like, they would absolutely love it, right?
Yeah.
And you're only in it for 2 years. You're bringing in Colin Sexton. You're going to pay him long term as if he is one of your guys. I would almost be more scared of Colin Sexton, to be honest.
You'd be more scared of Colin Sexton than the guy who's like perpetually injured and is making $36 million or whatever?
Probably, yes.
I mean,
giving up, like, tell the Knicks, like, develop Obi Toppin, keep him. I don't care. Keep the 19th pick. I don't care. You know, you have chances there, and there will be a good player at 19. That will happen.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely like who's in that range, and that's why I wouldn't hate that deal for the Cavs, even though I'm sure Cavs fans think that trade is like a poo-poo platter. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just prefer the idea of skewing younger with what the Knicks are doing, but targeting guys who are like in that 24, like pre-peak of their career. I don't necessarily love like Emmanuel Quickley and Colin Sexton together, which, you know, Quickley was not involved in that fake trade, but I don't know. We'll see. I think the bigger point for us is that the Thunder were rumored to be interested in Colin Sexton, and we are not buying that.
No, that's not even a rumor. That's just somebody typing into a computer. It's not real. Like, there's no somebody line up the just try to line up the logic. The Thunder want to bring in Colin Sexton so that they can lock him into a long-term contract. Like, I just don't see it. I just don't buy it at all. And then what's the trade offer that you feel comfortable with?
Oh, yeah, I would not do it from the Thunder's perspective. I do think people are underrating Colin Sexton. Like, I get that he has his issues. He is terrible defensively. But he like he is a efficient scorer. Like if you just looked at his scoring output, like he is an elite scorer for a third year NBA player. Like it is extremely rare. And we talked about it on Saturday Slam and Jam, like how rare it is. And honestly, you could say the same thing about Darius Garland. He is one of those guys who I get what people don't like about him, but you also have to acknowledge that he's been in a terrible situation and that his backcourt mate is another super small guard who can't defend. Like that was never going to work. And if he is in another system, like a defensive-minded Tibbs system in New York Knicks, I think it's going to look a lot different. And all of a sudden people are going to be like, oh, wow, I guess Colin Sexton is pretty good.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, there weren't many point guards that averaged 24 points per game this past season. I don't care where you're playing or what you're doing. You know, he's getting to the line 6 times, 81% from there. He's 37% from 3 on 4 attempts. He can do a lot of things. I just would prefer him do it elsewhere.
Oh, that's how I feel. Exactly. I do not, to be clear, I do not want him on the Thunder. I do not think he's a good fit for the Thunder, but I do think there are teams where he does fit, and I feel the same way about Lonzo. There are teams where Lonzo fits, and he is going to look so much better. And honestly, I thought he looked good last year, but like these guys have bad reputations for whatever reason among NBA Twitter. Like they're consistently undervalued on NBA Twitter, and I think they are going to find landing spots where it's like all of a sudden, oh, this makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. I think both those guys will probably end up elsewhere this season or this offseason. Actually, I mean, there's a chance the Cavs keep Colin Sexton and draft Evan Mobley if he drops to them.
Oh, I fully expect them to take Mobley at this point. But I do think they're trying to free up that backcourt because I do think they like Garland more, which I do as well.
Let's go to our stream, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll bring Ben Pfeifer on to discuss the NBA draft. We have Shannon Ward, who is first. Oh, I remember getting into chats and wanting to type first. You ever do that?
Yeah, Shannon's still doing it.
Yeah, it's great. Keep it up. People are hyped for the Vrens pod. Thanks so much for joining. We have Twice God, Hoopsock 69. Lawrence Field is here. Chad Scott is here. He's excited for the draft party. If you're in OKC or in the surrounding areas, I've seen people that are going to drive in from at least 3 hours away to come hang out with us for the draft party. It'll be at Fassler Hall in Midtown in Oklahoma City. It's going to be super fun. So come grab a pretzel and a schnitzel and come hang out with us at Fassler Hall for the NBA draft. That's on the 29th. We're almost 2 weeks away from the draft. 2 weeks and 1 day away from the draft. So join us that night. We have my buddy Alex Bullerjack in the chat. He wants JT Thor on the Thunder just to have a Thunder Thor jersey, which makes too much sense. White Black. Daniel Tomasi is here, who says, Wasan boys. We have Jay. We have Cody Menken. We have Stay Jamaica here with us. Let's see. Joel Angel from Antarctica. Still blows my mind, Joel. You must be very, very cold, but that's very cool that you're in Antarctica. Falcon Denmark is here. We have Senator Kennetor here. He said his dog Rick and him are watching from Nashville. I love dogs that are named after older men. It's very nice.
Shout out Rick.
Megalopsych is here from Switzerland. Thanks so much for joining, everybody. Christos from Greece here as always. Thanks so much for joining, and we'll be right back after this quick break. And we're back from that quick break. We have Ben Pfeifer on here. Ben, the reason that we're bringing you on is because we are tired of the conventional mock drafts. I'm tired of seeing Cade Cunningham followed by Evan Mobley, followed by one of the Jalens, followed by Kuminga. Get that out of here, Ben. Ben, thanks for coming on. We want to hear some of your unconventional takes. So thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. This is really cool with like the comments and stuff. I've never done a pod or a stream like this.
Yeah, man.
It's quite cool. I enjoy it.
Yeah, We do it live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so it's super fun. So
we should also mention.
Yeah, go ahead, Al.
Andrew. We should also mention that Ben, you were just announced winner of the first annual Mizzou Chicks Bachelor Contest yesterday.
Wow!
Congratulations!
I live this down. Never.
That's actually why we brought you on.
We want to break it down.
That was the expectation. All right, that's exactly what I thought.
So let's just start with give us your top 5 in this draft, and maybe give us your like most unconventional guy that you're really high on.
Sure. I mean, my top 3 is going to be pretty consensus. I have Caden Mobley in my first tier, and then Jalen Green, so fairly consensus. But then my next 2, I have Josh Giddey and Jaden Springer, which are 2 pretty a consensus picks. I mean, there are some people on draft Twitter for sure who are high on those 2, but definitely by mainstream, especially Springer, those 2 are definitely, you don't see those guys that high. Giddey played last night actually. Big fan of him, but yeah, that is my top 5 at the moment, and I don't think that's going to change because I think those are like the clear 5 best guys in the class.
So if you were the Thunder, as you know, the Thunder dropped to 6th, and for the last couple of weeks we've been talking about, would we rather Kuminga or Scotty Barnes fall to 6th? So if you were in that position, you guys vanished. You're gone. You're back. So if you were in that position, would you be looking at Josh Giddey and Jaden Springer for the Thunder?
Definitely not Springer, just because like you can get him so much later. Like in consensus mocks and boards, like he's not going until the late first round, which is absurd to me. But like there's no reason to take him that high to me, because you can trade back or just wait and get him later. Giddey, I don't really know. I think like he's been steadily climbing, and it wouldn't shock me if he creeped into like the top, 5, 6-ish. Again, I think you could maybe trade down and get him, but I wouldn't hate it. I think he makes a lot of sense as a pair with with Shea long term. Just add like a really special passer next to Shea, who's obviously like a really special creator at this age. Shea is amazing, and then Giddey, who I believe in as a scorer as well. I think the shot is going to be fine. I think he's going to get really strong, and be able to use his strength-based creation and his touch to finish and create advantages. So, yeah, I mean, I think Giddey would be really fun with the Thunder as well. And
do you thinking about his shot specifically, like if you're comparing Kuminga, Barnes, and Giddey, which of those guys do you have the most confidence in that they will be able to develop a shot, and why?
Oh, definitely Giddey, because I think just like looking purely at the numbers, Giddey's the winner. Scotty has had shooting issues forever, like going back to as long as I've been watching him, which is I've been watching Scotty since his junior year of high school, and he's never been a guy who can really shoot. I mean, this year at Florida State, like I was a little encouraged by his willingness to take tougher shots, but still, like the volume wasn't great, and he just wasn't that great of a shooter. Kuminga as well. Like I think everyone knows the efficiency has been, a big problem throughout his career. Again, I've been watching him since like his junior year of high school, and he's been a guy who has just not improved as a shooter. And then Giddey, who I think is the youngest of the 3. Has the best shooting numbers, takes the most threes, and I think is just going to be, guys who are that young, that tall, and are comfortable, attempting and making difficult pull-up threes and difficult mid-range pull-ups tend to be, good NBA shooters. So I definitely have faith in Giddey being a solid enough shooter, even if he's not an amazing shooter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. Who are you probably lower on than most people?
A couple people. I'm definitely lower on Kuminga. Lower.
Where would you have him? How low would you have him, Kuminga?
I have Kuminga in like the mid-teens area.
Mm-hmm.
Lower on Davion Mitchell for sure.
Yeah.
I have him in like the mid-20s. Lower on Bouknight, James Bouknight. I have him in the same range. I feel
I'm lower on Bouknight too. What is it about him? Like to me, it's the passing. It's like the tunnel vision. He's gonna be able to get buckets. There's no doubt. But I worry about him functioning in an NBA offense without just any vision at all.
Yeah, I just think Bouknight. Like to me, the idea of Bouknight as this like elite on ball like 3-level scorer is just not true to me. Like he is a very high level play finisher in my mind. Like he is an incredible finisher, like, with his body control and vertical athleticism, and ability to like do these like crazy contortion finishes. I think he's going to be a fine enough shooter, but like probably like a good, not great shooter, which is definitely an issue for him in an off-ball role. Like an amazing cutter. Like I've said, he should go play wide receiver. Like the way he cuts off the ball. But yeah, like you're totally right. The passing is really problematic. All his stuff is like basic one read, and he often just won't pass. When he should, no doubt. And his handle is a problem. His just general creation chops downhill, especially, are problematic for a guy protected on the ball. And then his defense to me is kind of a mess. So, I mean, as just like an off ball scoring guard, but there's definitely use for that. If you're a team with your creators or high level defenders in place. But again, that's like a player that's a complementary piece to me. That's more of a value in like the late first than the top 10 even, which I've seen. I've seen mocks have him as high as 6, which is just like not a good pick to me.
Going back to Kuminga, because a lot of times when people are pro Kuminga, they've seen the shooting inefficiency in the G League bubble, but they kind of come back with, and we've talked about this, Andrew, like the context of that G League bubble. It was a weird environment. It was a very small sample size. There's reasons to believe that he could be better in a better situation. As someone who has watched him, though, for since his junior year, like you mentioned, what are the things that you see that make you lower on him, even beyond what you saw in the G League bubble?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say on the efficiency, like Kuminga's always been really inefficient from everywhere on the floor, which was just an issue not seeing it improve. I was actually a pretty big Kuminga fan, especially relative to like other like draft Twitter people before the season. But that was kind of projecting improvement and hoping for him to improve on the things like his shot making and his decision making and his defense. And honestly, yes, like the competition level for sure increased, but those things honestly like regressed, if anything. Where I mean, yes, you can say the competition level increased. It's difficult, but then you look at Jalen Green, who improved on all of those things at playing up a competition level, who got better at everything, unlike Kuminga. But back to his actual game, like again, I'm not sure I see like the real upside with him, especially like it seems like he's not going to be an incredible shot maker at this point, just because like he's never had that track record, and this year he didn't do it as much. The decision making feel, just like he has so many holes in terms of. There are moments when he gets downhill so effortlessly, like just like one two step, overwhelmed at the rim, but it's just not as many as you need. Okay, I'm gonna have you guess on his 11-minute highlight mixtape from the season. How many unassisted rim makes do you think Jonathan Kuminga had? A guy who is projected as like an elite slasher. How many unassisted rim makes on his 11-minute highlight tape?
I'm guessing 2, based on the way you said it.
Okay,
it's very low.
10. It's actually 10.
Oh, 10. It's pretty good then.
Everyone guesses way too low. But like for context, that's fewer than Josh Giddey had on his highlight tape. And Josh Giddey is often seen as like an underwhelming athlete, someone who lacks burst. And there's truth to that. And there's truth to that about Giddey, no doubt. But yeah, it's just like Kuminga is so he doesn't use physicality nearly enough. His handle is weak. His feel for the game generally, and like his passing is really problematic. And then his defense at the moment is just kind of a mess. I mean, I don't think he's a lost cause on defense for sure because he's very strong, moves well laterally, and shows flashes of off-ball defensive prowess. Most 18-year-olds are bad at defense, especially ones that are later to basketball, like Kuminga. So I mean, I do think Kuminga can definitely be a good NBA player, no doubt. But I'm just not. I just think the path is probably more of like a secondary scoring wing with additive defense than like a real creator, which is I think where the disconnect lies with me and Kuminga in the top 5-6 ish.
And I think for Thunder fans, they see it as more of like a upside play, like a ceiling play with Kuminga. Would your answer still be Giddey to the question, like outside of the consensus top four, like the Jalen's and Evan Mobley and Cade, who has the highest ceiling for you? Is it Josh Giddey? Like if it's just pure ceiling?
That's a good question. I think it's probably Giddey. Yeah, to me, just because I think like if he figures out that scoring, like that's a really good player because like the tall passers just don't come around. I mean, this class is loaded with tall passers. Like,
yeah, it is.
Like Scotty and Jalen Johnson and other guys and Cade obviously. But I think aside from Cade, he's like definitely the guy with the most scoring upside. So yeah, I think it's Giddey. I think you can make an argument for Keon as another guy with a really high ceiling in terms of realistic options. But yeah, I think it's probably Giddey for me.
So everybody's got Şengün takes. Give us your Şengün take.
I actually just watched Şengün. He's certainly interesting. Also, I mean, it's been interesting for me, like because I kind of like started the draft cycle very late this year, but it's like basically Netflix binging the class. It's been quite interesting, and it's ridiculous that there's like a week till the draft. I can't be right, but like, Şengün, I think he's interesting. Like he seems pretty polarizing to me. Like some people have him in like their top 5. And some people have him like outside the first. I definitely lean towards the skeptical side on Şengün, and like the macro case for that is just like a 6'9" non-shooting, non-moving center is a player that I have issues with in terms of projection. Like Şengün is a really, really good player, like no doubt. And what he's done in Europe as an 18-year-old is undoubtedly impressive and matters, I think. But I only think it matters so much because you have to think about translation and scalability in terms of fitting next to other pieces, especially stars in the NBA. And on offense, I worry about how he scales down because he's like an amazing post-up scorer, like really, really special for his age in terms of footwork and craft. But I don't really think he's a good role man because of his lack of finishing ability, in those specific areas because of his explosion and his strength. So, if he can't scale as a role man and he's not shooting and his passing is solid to me, but not, incredible, like how is he adding value? Because, he's probably not going to get post up touches in the NBA super regularly, or at least not like many times a game like he did in Europe. So, I mean, maybe as like a bench unit scorer, but again, as a starter, unless he like somehow becomes this like outlier, incredible like small post scorer, which since it's not 1960 seems pretty unlikely. I just don't see it. And then defensively, like he's pretty smart. He has good instincts, and he has like solid short area change of direction in terms of like defending and drop coverage and like making interior rotations. But I just don't think he's mobile enough to survive. Mobile nor like strong or explosive enough to survive either as like a perimeter focused defender or as like an interior weak side rim protector type defender. So yeah, I just don't really see it. There's definitely value in what he does and what he has done, and I think that's worth like a first round pick. I think it would be fine if a team took him in like the early 20s if they saw the vision with him and thought they could develop him into something interesting, maybe really improve his perimeter skill. But like to me, I don't think he's like a lottery pick or a top 10 pick.
Yeah, he is really difficult because like John Hollinger is really, really high on him, and John Hollinger's his logic is that there's never been a player out of Europe who comes to the NBA at 19 years old that's been this productive that hasn't been successful. Like it's never happened. And so like the statistical argument from Hollinger is really intriguing. But then, yeah, there's like is he a modern big? And I've talked to a few people that say he could be Kevin Love. And there's a lot of projection that goes on to get that far.
Yeah, you got to kind of project a pretty outlier shooting jump there because Love is like a pretty all-time 4 shooter, and like Sengun is currently not shooting. Like
right. Yeah, and he shot a lot more jumpers as his season went on. So I have a little bit more faith in the jumper just because he was. I mean, at the beginning of the season, it was like all back to the basket all the time. But as his season progressed, he started taking a lot more mid-range jumpers, took a few more threes, and they didn't fall. But he was getting a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, I don't think Sengun is totally hopeless as a shooter. I mean, I definitely think he has the touch and the indicators to get to where he's a solid spot up shooter. But again, the question of how much does that really matter for his role if he's just a solid spot up shooter? Like if he's 35% on low volume, which I think is totally attainable. I agree he can get
sure.
There. I question how valuable that truly is because teams won't respect that.
Mm-hmm. Kind of going along with just how it's so hard to evaluate him because he clearly has that offensive skill. Who is the draft prospect that even after watching all their tape, you're still not confident in your own take on them? Like the prospect that's been the hardest for you to evaluate or project?
That's a good question. Probably Sharif, honestly.
Sharif for sure.
Cooper, who I had initially been a skeptic because it's just so difficult at that size, especially when you're not a shooter. He's tiny. He's not 6'3" as the combine measurements would say.
I know that was wild. I mean, you can't actually find those measurements on NBA.com anymore. They've deleted.
Oh, really?
Them.
You can't? Oh,
yeah. No, they clearly a mistake.
Yeah. I mean, Sharif, maybe they measured his hair or no. Sharif is
that had to have been it. Like that had to have been it. That's
or they just inputted the wrong data set.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, Reef is probably 5'11" or 6 foot. I know people who are not that tall and I stood next to him and they're like, yeah, I'm taller than this dude. Yeah. But Reef is he's just ridiculously good. There are very few prospects. He has elite skills. He is to me the best passer in the class. He's a really special passer in terms of his manipulation and his space awareness. Just the way he fools defenders and can zip passes into windows, even kind of with his size deficiencies, and it's really ridiculous. And that combined with his rim pressure ability and his burst and I think to me his slash and craft stuff is special. He is a true bully guard at 5'11". He will put dudes with 5 inches and 30 pounds on him in the rim regularly and finish through it over them. I think he averaged almost 8 rim attempts a game this year. And the only high level guard prospect I've found in the last 10, 15 years to eclipse that is Ja Morant, who is blossoming into quite the player. Even more rim attempts than our beloved Shea, who is a monster there. Mm-hmm. I mean, the issue with Reef there is can he ever score? Because even with the creation stuff, he was a terrible finisher. Even though Sharif has some of the best finishing craft I've ever seen out of a guard, in terms of his touch and ability to hang in midair and use Euro steps and his footwork and his strength and his balance. He is a terrible finisher because he's just so tiny. Yeah. And then again, the shot isn't there. I think what's really going to be crucial to him is adding an effective intermediate game, a la Trey. He doesn't have that floater or that mid-range pull-up right now.
Yep.
And that's going to be super important for his scoring development. So yeah, there's a lot of downside with Sharif, which is why I initially had him lower. Like if he's not scoring and his defense is, I actually wasn't as like horrified by his defense as I expected to be. Like it was better than I expected. I think because of his strength, it could be like not bottom of the league, which matters. But it's still going to be an issue because of his size. His shooting and scoring could be an issue. But like I just think like the draft is an upside game, and he has too much ceiling with his advantage creation and his passing, and the potential for some interior scoring to really, really pass on high. Like I just think his ceiling is really too special, and I have a lot of FOMO with him, ranking him low as well. Like I don't want to miss out on this guy as well if he hits, he's really gonna hit. Reef has definitely been a challenge for me this cycle. I mean, like I recently watched him play against my Missouri Tigers, and he absolutely like eviscerated them. Like that was maybe the best prospect game I've seen all year. Like, just unbelievable domination. So yeah, I mean, I just like at this point I'm definitely leaning higher on him. Like I don't want to miss out, but he's tough. He's a difficult one for me for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the passing, like with either hand stuff, is insane. The handle is crazy, but the shooting is terrifying. Like I don't know. I just don't even know if it'll ever even work out for him as a shooter at the next level. And it's just really hard as a guard to just be a creator like that if no one respects your shot. Like it's just a really tough position to be in. But yeah, he is an elite passer, like you said, and an elite ball handler. He might be the best in the class at both. And that might be enough for you to take him, somewhere in like the late lottery.
Yeah, I mean, I could, definitely imagine like a team like I could rationale like the Magic taking him as high as 8. Like I think that would be a great fit, a great spot. Like, if a team was like, on trading up for him, who really like if the Knicks were in a position in like the top 6 or 7, I definitely greenlight taking Sharif for that need, and just the stealing. But yeah, I mean, he could be really special, or like he could not work out at all. I think the range of outcomes for Sharif is pretty wide. But like the high is really high.
Yeah, I was talking to Sam Vecini yesterday about kind of where his range is, and we think it kind of starts at 13. Like realistically, like probably at 13 with the Pacers. You could talk. I think the Pacers could talk themselves into needing somebody that can create because they don't really have anybody that can create like him. I'd be a little surprised if he went higher, but yeah, if he's definitely a guy that you can talk yourself into kind of player.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's probably a value, honestly, at that point for him.
Another guy that I know you're exceedingly high on compared to consensus, and I think there's a lot of Thunder fans who are into this guy, and tell me if I'm saying his name right. Rocco Perkachin?
I believe it's Rocco Perkachin.
Perkachin. The 6'9" forward from Croatia. What makes him such an intriguing prospect to you?
Yeah, I have seen a lot of the fans in the comments talking about Rocco, and I appreciate that because I do love Rocco dearly. It's kind of confusing to me that he is like as under the radar as he is. Like a lot of like boards and mocks will have him like outside of the first, which doesn't really make sense to me. I mean the main reason because he's just really good, but the other reason is because like he seems like the type of player that mainstream will love because he dunks on everybody. Like his highlight tape is one of the coolest in the class. Like go watch his 10-minute mixtape from this season, like if you have time, because like he just dunks on everyone. Which is like I feel like a lot of like the white European stereotype is like shy, afraid, timid kind of offensive player. Like he is the anti-Dragon Bender. He's very much wired like Poku. In terms of just like do cool stuff, like is his MO, and like do cool stuff and kill people is Rocco's MO, and I think that's like really positive for his development. Honestly, like he is just like such a well-rounded forward, and is like I think the second youngest player in the draft to Josh Primo. Playing I mean, I think obviously Sengun gets talked up, for his numbers in the Turkish league. Rocco is really, really good in a better league in the Adriatic, which is known for producing NBA talent, and has been for years. So Rocco, I mean, offensively, I think there's a lot to point to. Again, the slashing, attacking closeouts, like he can really, get up, finish. I think the passing is really underrated. I think he's a quick decision maker. Really flashes some high level interior passes, and like the shot is the question people have, and it's definitely worrying at this point. But I do think that Rocco is probably going to shoot just because similar reasons as Giddey. Like he's taking threes, difficult threes at a young age. Rocco is so unafraid to shoot. If he catches the ball on the perimeter with an ounce of airspace, he is firing, which again is maybe an issue later in his career. But I love that for his shooting development, just getting those reps in. Defensively, he's like super solid as an off and on ball defender, really mobile. Just again like a versatile, like modern combo four with I think a lot of pathways to offensive development, whether that's improving his handle on the perimeter or improving his shot, or upping his scoring volume. Like I just think there's a lot of room for him to. He fits so well in the modern NBA, and he can fill so many different roles. And I think there's so many different ways you can take his development. And I'd definitely be really interested in to see him on a team like the Thunder, where he could theoretically have more leeway to do stuff and to create and to make mistakes. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Rocco. I think it's ridiculous he's going to go as low as he is. Some team's going to get a steal.
Yeah. Okay. A couple more questions and we'll let you go. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. It's Jalen Suggs. Why are you such a hater?
Jalen Suggs. Why am I such a hater? I mean, I guess like relative to consensus, yeah. Jalen Suggs is a really good player, like no doubt. Yeah. I just to me, like creation is king, and like shooting for those on-ball guys is just what you want to do, and which is why I have guys like Giddey and Springer and Green ahead of him. I mean, Mobley and Kate, I think obviously, but I mean, some would disagree, but I mean, Giddey, I think those three are just a lot better in terms of their creation ceiling, and some of them with defense. I mean, Suggs, I think, is going to be a really great complementary guard with some creation potential himself, no doubt. His passing is awesome. I think it's maybe a little overrated because I don't think he creates those really high level advantages, like those really high level passes, with his deliveries and his manipulation. But like his spatial awareness and court mapping, and especially like as like an off ball complementary passer. Someone who could work off, a creator like Shea and secondary pick and rolls and semi transition and off ball actions. Like he's a really amazing passer there. I am very big on his shooting as well. Obviously it dipped in the second half of the year, but just like the volume, the versatility and comfortability he's shown, like I think he's going to be a fantastic pull up shooter. And then like he is really bursty as well. Like he can get downhill, but just his handle, his lack of flexibility. The finishing concerns to me, like, well, he's a very good tough finisher. He just really cannot jump, and his lack of length, I think, shows as a finisher.
Sure.
So I worry about that translating. And then I think he's a little overrated defensively. Like to me, he's not very good at the point of attack. Just at this point, full stop. Like he's a problem. And then obviously, like he has ridiculous instincts off the ball. Everyone knows that. But I think oftentimes he gets caught up like hunting deflections and gambling for big plays and actually, making rotations and being sound, which is again like a problem for young guys. And like I think that's something that can get ironed out. But I just think context is important with Suggs because he can, like Gonzaga was the perfect context for him to mask all of his weaknesses and to highlight all of his strengths. And not forcing him to create in difficult spots. And when he did later in the season, I think, especially like if you go watch, those later season West Coast games, like the BYU games towards the end of the year, he really struggled against higher level defenses and, to get his own shot. And I think that's the concern. And a guy who's, like a complimentary guard who's non-elite defensively and might not be an elite shooter. Like I think he's be a very, very good shooter, but maybe sub-elite. That's a guy who I just have issues with taking as high as players who I believe have real creator upside. Like, and that's just a philosophy difference for me. Like, I would not begrudge anyone for having Suggs in the top 3. Like, I would begrudge them for having him in the top 2 and 1. But like at 3, I think that's totally fine. Like, I think, you know, Suggs going as high as 3 is fine and good. Like, he is a very, very good player and a very good prospect. It is going to be a very good NBA player. I just have issues in terms of my philosophy and the way that I evaluate at the top of the draft that I think, you know, limits me from having him higher. But he's like a very good player. Like, I am a huge fan of him and have been a big fan of his since the first time I saw him, which was like FIBA, like one of the FIBA tournaments forever ago.
Well, it kind of sounds like you would prefer him in a situation like Oklahoma City where he could play off of a primary creator like Shea, as opposed to like Toronto where he's getting mocked, where they're basically drafting him to be their lead point guard primary creator.
Yeah, I think a situation where, you know, you have an offense that's willing to fit to his, you know, work around his weaknesses is key. And like, especially when you have a guy like Shea who like kind of fills in the biggest gap, which is like his rim pressure and his creation. Because, you know, obviously Shea is going to be really special at that. I mean, he already is, and is going to be, you know, a monster as he ages. So yeah, I mean, I think Suggs and Shea is actually a really synergistic fit. Assuming Suggs improves on defense as most players do. Yeah, I mean, that's actually a fit I like a lot. I mean, it's probably not going to happen, but I do extremely like that quite a bit.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite fits with Shea. That's in the top part of the draft. Okay, so let's say everything stays pretty chalk. Cade, Mobley, Green, Suggs, Kuminga. Who are you taking at 6 if you're the Thunder?
Like assuming realistic options.
And the Thunder are fearless when it comes to taking guys. I think there's some teams that would be scared to go away from consensus. I don't think the Thunder are that. So feel free to say whoever you think, because I think the Thunder will take whoever they want.
So the consensus top 5 is gone. Yeah. I can't go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gone.
Yeah, I think I'd go Giddey, honestly. Like, yeah, I like him that much. I think just like for me, fit wise, like maybe there's issues with, you know, 2 big creators, but I think you figure that out later. But I think he is like far and away the best player on the board that they can get realistically, because like I said, they're not going to take Springer this high. That would be ridiculous. Like, because of how other teams value him. I could like honestly, I think Moody, like Moses Moody, is a guy who I'd also strongly consider. Honestly, Moody might even be better because like. Yeah, I actually think I might change my answer to Moses Moody because, like, just like adding
Alex's guy. Yeah,
yeah, I absolutely love Moses Moody. Have been Moody Mafia for like a long time. Another guy I've been watching since like his junior year of high school. It's just, you know, so good. Like when you're looking for like that second piece, like the first piece like is your primary offensive creator, your engine, which the Thunder, you know, seem to have. And then, you know, he's like, you need to add those complementary wings, and Moody is like perfect there. Like his offense, like he's going to be an amazing shooter. His complementary offense, off the catch, attacking, finishing, secondary passing, like foul draw, grifting. Like he is like, as my good friend PD Webb says, like the best 4-point play drawer since Jamal Crawford. Like it is uncanny how he does that. And then, you know, defensively, there's like so long, strong, laterally quick, especially defending. You can really defend up. Such a smart team defender. Just gonna be an incredible complementary wing with, I think, some real shot making upside that is kind of, you know, not discussed very often. So yeah, I mean, if you're looking at complementary wing players who can really add value without usage, that would be, you know, an awesome fit. But then like I'm thinking about Josh Giddey and Poku on the same floor, and that would be certainly an experience.
Yeah, the confidence alone would be worth the watch between those two.
and then we could get Rocco at 16.
Oh my god.
So Rocco, Poku,
those three like on the same floor would be the most hilarious basketball experience ever. It would be incredible. I would pay a lot of money to see that play out. Like,
Oh man, Ben, thanks so much for coming on the show. Tell everybody where they can find you, what you've been doing. We really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, of course. This was a blast. I am going to my Twitter is at Ben_Pfeifer_. I'm just posting, my little voice notes on prospects, which I have a ton of at this point. It's different clips, draft tweets, nothing too much, just, preparing for the draft. Again, cannot believe that it is so soon. Somebody asked earlier, what is on my hat? What's on my hat? Somebody asked earlier. I see you. I didn't mean. But yeah, so that's it. Not too much. Go follow me. Thank you guys so much for having me on. This was awesome.
Yeah, thanks, great. Ben.
Whoops. I made you big instead of kicking you out. All right. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, guys. Have a good morning.
See ya.
All right, Al. We'll wrap up here. Any closing thoughts?
No, I was actually very surprised that he went with Moody at the end. I did not see that coming because I've been following him and I know a lot of his takes. And I guess with Giddey, my only thing is that's the type of guy that if you draft him, you want to put the ball in his hands day one. Not only because he's such an amazing creator, but also because you have those concerns about his shooting. Like, what is he going to do off ball? And it sounded like at the end he kind of felt that way as well, opting for Moody. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I watched Giddey last night in that Olympic exhibition game against Nigeria, and there are things he does that are just like super impressive, and I'm feeling more confident in him. I still don't know if that's like who I would want the Thunder to take, but I definitely get the case for him.
Yeah, and the Thunder won't be scared to take a guy like Giddey at 6.
Right.
And with the way they've been drafting, like tons of international players, I would not be surprised if they saw that as like the market inefficiency here, which has been something for a long time. That, unless it's a player, even Luka, like people were afraid to take Luka high in the draft because because they're afraid that he's going to be the next Darko or whatever it is. While like Kuminga will go high in this draft, and I like Kuminga. I like the idea of him. I like the idea of him developing in OKC. But there is a chance that we do a redraft in 3 years and we're like, oh my gosh, like he would go 21st. There's like that is certainly a reality that we could face here relatively soon. So we're going to end here. If you are listening on the pod, you are going to hear a short interview with Vrenz. It's again very fun. Hope you guys enjoy it. If you're on the stream, thanks so much for tuning in, and we will talk to you guys again on Friday.